everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I know that it means so much to these panelists. We have Elizabeth Copeland, Sal Marks, Catherine Keats, and Emma Goldman Sherman. And they are amazing, incredibly talented artists who have gone through some illness and grief and are going to be sharing their stories and also just talking about this topic today. Um, I'm very honored that they asked me to facilitate the conversation. You guys might know me. My name is Hallie Williams. I am the marketing director for Grief Dialogues, also the host of the Grief Dialogue podcast, Out of Grief Comes Art. I love talking about grief. That's kind of weird, but here I am. And I love to help others have a platform to speak about their experiences. I think that that is so important in this world. I think we're all humans and we all need to connect. And so that is exactly what we're here doing today. I also want to give a huge hug and thank you. That's not professional. A huge thank you to an amazing organization called Reimagine. They actually really fall in line with what I was just saying about providing a platform for people to share their story. And so they are this amazing network that collaborates with other artists, with other people, with all walks of life, and give them that ability to speak and hold events like this. We actually have the senior program director, is that correct? Named Andy Engel. You could go ahead and switch to the next slide, Emma. Andy just wanted to pop in and say hello, so I'm going to let him share a few words about and share a little bit about Reimagine Network. But really, we just love to see his face, and we love when he joins us. So, hi, Andy.
Hi, Hallie. Thank you so much, and I give you consent to hug me. It's perfectly fine.
Perfect.
Like Hallie said, I'm Andy Engel. I'm senior programmer at Reimagine. Pronouns are he, him. And for those who need a visual description, I'm a white cisgender male with glasses. I got my red sweatshirt, my gray shirt. I've got a gray wood background.
We'll be back, baby.
What's that?
Hey guys, can we all mute our microphones just during this while we're all speaking? Thank you so much.
So each month this summer, we've been presenting programs on Wednesdays that focus on a theme. And this month, we began a focus on physical health through the lens of growth and transformation. And the goal was to provide all of you with space to express and discuss the difficulties we all face with serious or chronic illness, disability, injury, as well as sharing some pathways towards growth. And as some of you may know, Reimagine has been leaning into the theory of post-traumatic growth, and that's the science-y name to describe the struggle we experience with grief, loss, adversity, and then using that experience to spark discoveries about ourselves and about our communities. And by the way, this concept of PTG, post-traumatic growth, is not unique to Western science. You can find it in all sorts of global traditions. PTG is rooted in psychological research. And the idea is that those who experience adversity and loss can also experience strength, optimism, more meaningful relationships, a deeper appreciation of life, and heightened spirituality and purpose. So I'm not a scientist, but I want to stress that transformation from trauma or grief isn't something that's constant. It's perfectly acceptable to not experience any growth at all when you're encountering loss. Last week, we had an amazing conversation with an entrepreneur named Nitika Chopra, who leads a group called the Chronicon community. And we had author Megan O'Rourke, both speaking about living with chronic illness. It was such a privilege to witness the support and connection among the attendees of, this is a quote from Megan, of bodies that live on the edge of medical knowledge. Those topics included the evolving nature of health, the challenges and joys of parenting with a chronic illness, negotiating relationships with loved ones who may or may not understand what you're going through, and pushing back on gaslighting from medical professionals. You'll find recordings of this event that I just described and other programs that we've done in our Vimeo library. It's vimeo.com/Let's Reimagine, and I will post that later in the chat. Elizabeth Copeland and Hallie, I want to thank you both for being leaders. And Elizabeth, especially, I want to thank you for being on set with you when you were shooting your film in New York. It was very exciting.
It was exciting.
Elizabeth and Hallie have been hosting events on Reimagine with Grief Dialogues for a few years now. And Elizabeth, is it true that you may be involved in the LA Festival?
It is not only true, we are actually premiering the film, Honoring Choices, that you were on the set for. We're premiering the film at the LA Festival in September 24th. Check it out on letsreimagine.org.
Yes, it's exciting for us at Reimagine, and with all of our collaborators, we are bringing back in-person festivals, and we're focusing on a particular community, Leimert Park in Los Angeles, a hub of African-American arts and culture. So you can check that on the website. I'm going to stop now because it's time for all of you to take the stage and begin this really important conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Hey, Andy, what was the acronym again for what you were talking about? The something growth.
Oh, PTG? Post-traumatic growth?
Post-traumatic growth. Okay, cool. I wanted to get that down. Okay. Well, that mention is really great for today's event because we are speaking of, this is kind of our agenda here on the screen. We are going to meet our panelists, then we're going to get into some questions for the panel. And I just really want to thank you for sharing that PTG with us, because each of these panelists have experienced some illness to some degree and a lot of pain associated with that. And believe it or not, grief is not just death and loss. It's actually grieving something that you might have lost or something that you previously had known that has changed, right? And so when you talk about this PTG, we're actually talking about the growth of something or the post-traumatic change of something. And all of these panelists have gone through that. So I'm really excited to get into them. We have Elizabeth Copeland. She's calling in from London today. We have Catherine Keats. She's an amazing singer and songwriter. She has a one-woman show that is actually, I don't know the right word, debuting? Is that the right word? In October, and it's incredible. Like, I've actually, fun fact, guys, I've just interviewed all of them on our podcast. So I know all of their dirt. I won't air it all out, but oh my gosh, I'm like, I love each of these people so much because they all are doing some incredible work. And have big things rolling out right now as we're speaking. So hopefully they will shed some light on that. I won't spoil. We also have Sal Marks, who I've actually known since high school, which is insane. And so when we reconnected recently, Elizabeth shot their information over to me and immediately was like, do you know this person? And I was like, holy moly, I do. So she's an amazing artist in New York City working with narrative medicine. And then we have Emma Goldman Sherman, who is a dramaturg, and she writes these plays and gives these platforms for stories and gives life to stories that are just absolutely incredible. Elizabeth is also a playwright. So let's get into Elizabeth real quick. I will let her speak for herself instead of me just tell you guys that I think all these people are cool. But this is Elizabeth Copeland. She is a playwright. She's a founder of Grief Dialogues and my main lady, who I work with every day. She's also my co-host on the podcast. Go ahead, Elizabeth, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Okay. Well, I'm trying. Okay. I got a message that I have to try to lower my aim. My problem is that I'm actually in a hotel room in London. I tried to move to a different space that was a little better, but the noise. It's London, so hopefully you're not looking at my nose. I don't know. Hallie, do I look okay to you?
You're always pretty, but screen up a little bit.
Okay, so what? So
screen up a little.
Just a little. Bring it up a little, like that.
Beautiful.
Because I can't see myself. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Copeland. I'm so honored to be here. As Andy said, Reimagine. I was actually myself and Grief Dialogues. We were part of Reimagine when it was live in person, pre-pandemic, if you can remember those days. And we performed a couple of times in various live situations in New York and San Francisco with Reimagine. And then when we had to all of us had to transition to Zoom, we were fortunate enough to be part of the Reimagine Zoom community. And now I'm actually really excited to be able to share this, because we wouldn't, before we were very isolated to just whoever could attend in person, and now assume we can offer this across the board, across the world, which is very exciting. And we are now shifting to also be able to do it in person. So I just want to say hello to everyone. I'm very excited. We have a film, Grief Dialogues has a film. We have a podcast, which Hallie is showing here. I don't know, Hallie, what else did you want to know?
Can you tell us a little bit about your illness and how
yes.
that has brought you or has sparked your art?
Okay, well, I don't like to talk about my quote unquote illness. I was diagnosed, but I will for a second. I was diagnosed about 28 years ago now with lupus. And I remember my doctor at the time said to me, do not go on the internet, do not Google the term lupus, you will think you are dying. So of course I did. I looked and I thought, oh, I'm dying. It is really dire. But in a way that gave me the motivation to say, hey, I may not have a whole lot of time left. And I've always wanted to be a creative person. I wanted to be an actress since I was 13 years old. I moved to New York City to be an actress when I was 18. I realized I could, as an actor, I could either pay the rent or eat. I could not do both. And so I did go back into business. I had a career in marketing, but now I'm happy to say that I have now been able to channel my creativity back into what I'm doing. And now I use my personal experience with grief, with pain, suffering, that really has helped me write and produce plays that people seem to identify with. What I really get excited about is the fact that at the end of a production, at the end of a screening of a film, people come up to me and will say, I thought I was the only one. So I just want to say, as much as I do not want to have a diagnosis, I do not want to have a disability sticker on my car, I am at least able to use my creative abilities to help others who might be suffering through similar pain. That's my story.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate you sharing it with us. And I personally know that this is something that's very personal with Elizabeth and has really fueled her desires and her dreams and her ideas. And she really does a great job of taking all of this and transforming it into something else. And so thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's not easy to share. Next, we have, I believe, if you can next slide me. Yes, Catherine Keats. Catherine Keats is performing artist, playwright, singer, songwriter. Her story is absolutely incredible as well. I do have a little clip here of some of her music, and we'll be sharing these slides with you later. Emma, go ahead and click that red play button and see if we can hear just a little bit of her music. Go ahead and hit play, or maybe skip to a little bit of a middle spot. Yep, to the middle. Thank you.
Is that thank you? Did I hear?
Yeah, I said thank you.
Talkative.
Catherine is transformative with her music. Catherine, can you share with us a little bit about your personal story and how out of grief how out of illness has come grief? Said it backwards.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me. First of all, thank you, Elizabeth Copeland and Hallie and Andy and Reimagine. And for those of you that would like to know, I am a my pronouns are she, her, and I am a vintage woman with short hair. I'm wearing a black hoodie, and I am Scottish European descent, meaning I'm just an old white woman. Really, that's really what it is. I'm really honored to be here with everyone, with Sal and Emma, and I'm I'm always shy. I'm kind of shy about talking about my story, even though I wrote a show about it. So you want me to talk about this? Okay. So
Or or what you feel like is helpful for everyone to understand how you arrived to your position as an artist.
I arrived in my position as an artist when I was 5. So that happened before my actual story. However, I probably did arrive to my position as an artist from a lot of trauma in my family, which could be true with, I think, a lot of artists. But the trauma that I had was that brought me to my work now for the last several years is having gone through an experience with a man that was my music director and my lover, and we wrote shows together, and he was very, very ill, and he had schizoaffective disorder, and I wanted to save him, and he ended up with 13 personalities, and they all thought that I needed to be dismembered, and he ended up holding me captive. And ultimately I was saved, and a trial happened, and I had to go into hiding and change my identity. And needless to say, I was held for quite a while, and I have had very severe CPTSD. And that's like being slammed into a visceral hole of hell. And so my work that I'm doing now, the show The Hummingbird, which took 10 years to write, came out of that. And that's where a lot of my work over, I'd say, the last 20 years has come from. And it's been incredibly healing and cathartic. And it's given me an opportunity to really be of service to other people, which has been for me always really the reason that I'm interested in my craft as a performance artist, as a musician, as a teaching artist. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm interested in doing, and that's why I do what I do. So I'm really happy to be here.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy everyone's here.
Good. Thank you. And we're really happy that you are a host on this panel. Next, we have Sal Marks, I believe. Sal Marks is a visual artist out of New York City. But right now, I think you're back home in our homeland. Is that right? You're visiting? Yep. She's a storyteller, researcher, patient innovator, and works in narrative medicine. Sal, take it away. What's up with you?
Thanks, Hallie. Hello, everyone. I'm so humbled to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sal Marks. I grew up on Bainbridge Island, not far away from some of these folks, but I've been based in New York City the last few years. And my illness story started when I was an adolescent. I was 13 years old when I first started having chronic pain symptoms in my entire body. And for the next 3 years, I went through a misdiagnosis process as a young female presenting person in a children's hospital system. There's at least what I experienced was a pretty big culture of dismissal. And being told that the pain I was experiencing was something in my head that I was creating and was only I was responsible for making go away. Ultimately, none of that was true. I had a real diagnosis that ended up being AS, ankylosing spondylitis, and I have a number of other chronic illnesses. But for me, growing up as an adolescent in spending so much time in waiting rooms, in hospitals, I really shut down. I felt that the ability to speak was taken away from me. And I think a lot of patients feel this, that when they walk into the clinic and are asked to rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10, they are already not given the autonomy to speak from their lived experience and from their own body mind. So since I was a teenager, I've brought a small pocket sketchbook to waiting rooms. And this pocket sketchbook has been a way for me to witness myself, to doodle, to pass the time, and ultimately to cope with the up and down, nonlinear ebbs and flows of chronic illness that last a lifetime. So for me, creating art, whether that's drawing in a very casual way or painting with oil, has given me and my illness a voice. And through that process, I have found my ways into patient advocacy and patient education. And I'm really interested in developing ways for access to these parts of ourselves, access of expression that is nonverbal, often non-spoken, and often unconscious. And so for those of us whose bodies live in these borderlands of sick, healthy, and other, I think that art is one of the most powerful ways to witness ourselves and share with others how we are feeling. So that's just a little bit about me, but I'll go ahead and pause right there.
Thank you, Sal. In our podcast episode with Sal, we speak that just was actually last week. We speak quite a bit about letting arts speak for you when you don't have the words. And I think that is going to be a theme that we talk about today. All right. And finally, last but definitely not least, we have Emma Goldman Sherman, and she is running the slides for me because today the computer decided to hate me. So the computer likes Emma and she's running slides. This is her beautiful face. I don't know if she's going to pop off the slide to show her face or not, but she is a playwright, poet, coach, dramaturg, and founder of Brave Space Online, which is such a cool concept and organization that she is offering to people that helps them do a little bit of what we're going to do today. Emma, tell us about your illness story.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Hallie and Elizabeth. Can you see my face? Am I visible?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
so so for those who are visually impaired, I am a white woman with purple hair wearing red circular glasses, and I have a sort of lime or chartreuse blouse on against a bluish gray background. And I so much of this is just so resonant for me. I'm thinking about my lifelong struggle really with illness most of my life. I was diagnosed after many, many, many years of being ignored and, sort of laughed at, really. I'm older than Sal, so I'm 57. So it took almost 15 years to get diagnosed with endometriosis. That is one of 4 different autoimmune diseases that I have struggled with, including ulcerative colitis. And I've also, struggled a lot with grief. My mother died when I was young, and my family dealt with a lot of trauma. And I really didn't even know what I was struggling with. I just knew that I wasn't well, like I did not feel well, and my symptoms didn't really add up. And so eventually I got pregnant and I gave birth, and I had a very complicated and traumatic birth. And that led to my traumatic memories coming back. But like Catherine said, you know, I've known that I was always an artist as early as being 6 years old. I knew that there were stories that I needed to tell. I wasn't sure what they were, but I had to become a storyteller, and I had to also help other people tell their stories. And that was really clear to me as young as 6. So that has sort of been a path that I have tread in spite of, not necessarily because of, all the illnesses and the grief and the PTSD. And what happened was, after I had my son, who is now almost 20, the trauma sort of shook loose a lot of traumatic memories. And then I was traumatized. Then I was like, oh, then this is CPTSD, and I needed to deal with that. And that really helped me understand what my role as an artist was so much better, so that I could really start to tell the stories that needed to be told that I hadn't even been aware of up until that point. So I started to really attack my art form in a different way. And after I wrote Fucked, which is the play that will be premiering in New York for 12 shows this fall, which is directly about my personal experience. But I'm not in it. It's not a one-person show. There are 3 actors in it, and they play different aspects of me. And yet it is very much immersive with the audience, and it's really about a path to healing. It's not like a trauma story that is populated as like a typical story. It's very much about being with the audience. So that could not have happened if I didn't have my memories back. But that led me to create Brave Space online, which is a Zoom place for artists, but also for anyone to come and be creative. And I provide a lot of support, because when I wrote Fucked, which was a pretty daunting, scary piece to work on, I didn't have any of that support. And there was no one I could turn to say, how do I turn this off? How do I create a container for this? How do I, if I'm really going to tell the truth, live with that while I'm doing that? Like, who can hold my hand, even virtually? And so I created this virtual space that is very supportive for people to be able to look at, you know, their stories and tell their stories with a community.
Thank you, Emma. I'm just bad with this whole mute thing. I'm like talking. Nobody can hear me. Thank you, Emma, so much for sharing this, because I have seen through your work in the activities through Brave Space, just this, exactly what you're saying about getting people to tell their story. And I love that this is the truth that you live every day for other people. And it seems extra meaningful, especially knowing your backstory. So thank you. All right, so let's move into the discussion aspect. I mean, I guess we have been talking, but the discussion aspect of this event. I've prepared some questions for the panel that I think, based off of knowing you guys as audience members, and looking and observing at what you guys ask all the time around these things in online and social media about illness and chronic pain and chronic illness and grief. And here's our first question for the panel, and in no particular order do you guys have to answer. Anyone just speak up. First question: how have you learned to embrace your unique illness and have patience with your body and mind?
So, I mean, I can directly speak to that, because I have developed, both for myself and for my students and my colleagues and all the people who come to Brave Space, a self-compassion practice. And I think that's really, really important, because if you are living with illness, it can be really difficult, and to feel connected with your body, and to allow that there has to be a kind of level of acceptance that these bodies are not necessarily working the way anybody else's bodies are working, that there is a level of pain, there is a level of discomfort, there's a level of frustration on a regular basis. So instead of turning against myself, which is what I would tend to do, or be judgmental, I stop, I notice the judgment, I accept that I am imperfect, and I will literally put my hand on my heart, I will breathe, and I will allow for self-compassion to come, whether I have to coax it through gratitude that I'm still here on this earth, or, you know, that I'm able to breathe, or that there are places that are not in pain in different parts of my body. But really just using self-compassion and metta meditation, which is a Buddhist practice that means loving kindness. And the more I do that, the more able I am to be free with my work.
Okay. I love that. And also the Buddhist practice, that is very interesting to me because that's not something that I'm super familiar with. Can you give us like 2 more seconds on that?
Sure. The metta meditation is just a 4-sentence meditation where, and you can make up your own words to this, but typically I'll just say to myself, may I love and be loved. May I be safe. May I be healthy and whole. May I live with ease, or whatever four sentences would help you in the moment. And breathing with that, just really trying to ground myself, feet on the ground, that sort of thing.
All right. Thank you. Other panelists, do you guys have thoughts on this question? Elizabeth, Sal, or Catherine?
I do things, I keep things very simple. I work one day at a time, and it's imperative that I keep my life as in the moment as I can. And simplicity for me is the key to being to maintaining a certain kind of equilibrium, and being able to stay resilient. And resiliency for me is the key to being able to be peaceful, and also being able to tolerate the things, the different experiences, emotional experiences and physical experiences that come up on a day-to-day basis. And if I can just learn to tolerate the different experiences that come up for me, literally learn to tolerate, then I'm able to manage these day-to-day difficulties. But again, the key is keeping life as simple as I can, because things get, things are difficult, and simplicity is key. So that is how, that for me is key.
Simplicity. I really do like that, because I think that might be very helpful to a lot of people. I think it's easy for us to, Catherine, take in all the chaos of our life, and we forget to just keep it simple, especially if you're also juggling an illness. So
I mean, it requires a practice, right? So as Emma was speaking, I mean, she's giving a structure of a practice, which is good. And I too have a structure. I think everyone finds their own kind of way that is. Of course, I have my own, and I mean, for me, I really do have to keep it very simple for myself. But I don't know any other way to do it. And if I get out ahead of myself and futurize or get too far back in the past, I can get in trouble. And trouble for me is it's not good, because getting thrown back into a post-traumatic episode is, you know, that can be days of really severe stuff. So really trying to learn to stay in the moment here, which is what we have here, right here where we all are now. So whether it's meditation or whatever it is for you, and really discovering that takes practice and a certain kind of discipline to find out what it is for you, and giving yourself that gift.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. Sal, what do you think?
Yeah, I love what you said, Catherine. What's coming to mind for me is something one of my professors loved to say, and that is, hope is a discipline. Hope is a discipline, and it's not something that always comes naturally, but we have to remind ourselves that. And I think it's taken me a long time to embody that there's no overcoming illness, right? It's living alongside the ups and downs of what comes with chronic illness and pain. And I'm not going to try to be some inspirational porn where it's something that I have just overcome. I need to hold space for the times when my pain is overwhelming, or it pushes me to places where I can or cannot do certain things. And, you know, having patience, I think, goes hand in hand with creating, because there is kind of a sense of play that's required with being creative, and not judging myself for what comes out on the page in the same way that I'm not going to judge myself for how my body or my mind is feeling on any given day. So
Wow.
another thing that has helped me have patience is creating my own pain scales. You know, I think it's really hard to tangibly check in with yourself and say, how am I doing today? And when my whole life certainly has been defined by clinical language and labels that have been assigned to my body, how can I create my own? How can I develop a way to check in with myself and understand where my body is in a language that feels natural to myself and gives my body the autonomy to speak for itself in a way that it is rarely given the permission to do. Wow. So I encourage you to find ways to speak for yourself, even if that's not speaking.
Wow. Give your body permission to speak for itself in ways that it cannot normally do. That is, I mean, we should make a headline quote for this whole episode. Elizabeth, would you like to share your thoughts on this as well?
Sure. I agree with all that has come before me wholeheartedly. I also want to give a little bit of a thumbs up to Western medicine. I learned a lot from Emma quite a long time ago. Emma and I have known each other for a while. And sometimes when I'm feeling really, really poorly and I can't necessarily stop what I'm doing for whatever reason, I often will put both hands on my chest over my heart. And that's something I learned from Emma, by the way. And that really helps to center me and to remind me that I'm a whole person, and it's okay to be in pain. It's okay to feel what I'm feeling. And it's also okay to push through if that's what I feel like is important. But I want to give a shout out to Western medicine only because over time I have learned that sometimes, even though I would venture a guess that if we were to take a poll right now, that most of the people on this call would say, I don't want to take medication, that occasionally you really need to take that medication. And that when you do, and you find that it does help, you give yourself a little bit of it. It's okay. It's okay to take the medication when you need it. You didn't fail because you had to take that medication. So I just want to give that little bit of a plug. I try to overcome it. I grew up in a military family. Our motto was straighten out and fly right, you know, and you took it head on. And I will say that that has helped me in a lot of ways, but in other ways, sometimes you need to stop. You need to listen to what feels good at the time, what is important to you at the time. If that means it's a medication, so be it. If that means it's a meditation of the mind, that also works too. But I think all of the things that have been mentioned here, if Hallie, I know you're putting this in the chat, but if we kind of have a list of things, so that for me, I'm hoping you're doing this. So for me, when I'm having a hard time, I can try one thing, and if that doesn't work, let's try the next thing. That there are various opportunities to help us out, depending on what it is that we need.
Well, I'm trying to multitask the best I can, everyone. I'm sorry.
And Hallie, if anybody can multitask, it's you.
Thank you. So Elizabeth is saying, don't give up on yourself. Try your methods. Hold on, I'm writing that down.
Very good, Hallie. You know me well.
Can we look at this one question? What does simplicity look like when you're trying to do your day-to-day?
Excellent question.
And that leads into this next question.
Can I read it or no? Especially when you're trying to balance making art with day-to-day. I love that.
Take it away, Catherine. What do you think?
I don't know if anyone else has a great answer for that. I mean, I'm lucky because I get to do art all day. As a teaching artist, I'm working with film actors. I'm a method coach. That can be very stressful. They're very, you know, high, pretty, it's a pretty heady thing to do, and it can get overwhelming. And then I'm also working on my own work. And I love the question, and I'm going to ask if anyone else on the panel has that answer with the day-to-day. I mean, for me, I'm really, when I mean simplicity, I mean lots of rest, eat when you need to eat, rest when you need to rest, read if that's your thing, self-care. It took me years to figure out what self-care meant for me. Just years. Age, there was something great about aging and slowing down, you know. I'm a mother with boys who are finally in their 20s, thank God.
Shout out to the boys.
Shout out to kids getting older. Shout out to them getting older. So I don't know, anyone else have that one? That's such a great question.
I would think, well, I think all of our panelists are excellent on this topic, but Emma, what are your thoughts with this?
We're talking about simplicity?
So someone in our chat, Trunk02, asked, what does simplicity look like, especially when you are trying to balance making art with your day-to-day?
Right. So I think I have to be really intentional about what each day is about. And I recently was awarded a commission to work on what is now a pretty big musical about autoimmune diseases. And so I've, had this enormous opportunity, and it has been difficult to balance that with my family and their needs, my dog and her needs, plus my own need to do my own work and working, with Brave Space or teaching or doing private coaching. And, all of a sudden, every once in a while, the musical will be like, we're doing a workshop. We're going to have 3 weeks of rehearsal, and you're going to be, with people in the same room. And, like we'll be doing COVID testing every other day. I mean, it's when you have other conditions that can really send me. I have to take the subway. I have to walk across Central Park, and back just to get to rehearsal. And while rehearsal is a joy, and I feel like this is really what I want to do, and I'm thrilled to be able to work on a musical about autoimmune disease. I have to wake up on top of my game. I have to go to sleep early. I have to say no to everything that comes in. Just no, not doing that, not doing that, I have to block off my time. I, don't do other things. I can't go see other shows. I can't, watch any TV. I can't, nothing. I just do what has to be done and I have to prioritize. So,
Mhm.
those are my things. That's what it looks
Yeah.
like. It looks like, no, I'm not going to be a friend. I'm barely going to be, in this relationship. I'm not going to be around as your mother. I'm doing my show right now.
Right.
Like no,
And
like no is a complete sentence.
Yes, yes.
wow,
I want
right.
to echo that. I want to echo that too. I think that quite frankly, during the pandemic, I have probably lost a lot of friends because I found my art. And I found that through writing plays, writing screenplays, having them produced, having them read, etc., that gives me a tremendous amount of pain relief, to be honest with you. I don't, you can call it psychosomatic, call it whatever you want.
Right.
When I'm in a reading, when I'm hearing my words being performed by an great actor, when I'm seeing my film unfold, my pain goes away. And so when that's happening now, I've had to go into the no mode, the simplicity mode that Catherine was talking about, and Emma and Sal, I want you to chime in too, where I just have to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to go to lunch with you. No, and people have gotten offended, and I'm really, really sorry if you are on this call and you are one of the people that I've offended. But I've had to really bring in and say no to anything that isn't my art right now in order for me to be healthy. So, Sal, what do you think on this idea of simplicity?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you guys are coming from. And I think I have to remember that the product of what the world sees is often very different than my process. And sometimes art can just exist for art's sake. And what I mean by that is, so I've spent a couple of years teaching middle schoolers, and sometimes kids, they don't want to be told to do an assignment, but you can tell them to close their eyes and scribble on a piece of paper, and it can still have an incredibly beneficial value for someone experiencing intense emotions. And
Yep.
I've had to apply that same mindset to myself, that if I'm sitting down and I'm trying to let myself go to a place that's meditative, I can't think too much, and sometimes I'll just make myself close my eyes and draw, because that'll allow myself to be less critical of what I'm doing, and allow myself to enter into that process.
You
Oh, that's
know,
such a great point.
can I jump in? I'm not a panelist, but if anybody listens to our podcast, they know that I'm in the trenches with 2 toddler boys under 5. Okay. And my son is really into drawing right now, and I'll give him a prompt mainly to just keep him busy so I can cook dinner, right? But he'll be at the dining room table and I'll say, draw, yourself at the beach. And he will come back just, at first glance, it's like scribbles and doesn't make sense, but he'll come back so proud of what his picture is with no self-judgment. And he'll just be like, look, it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. There's an orca whale. There's all these things. And it doesn't quite make a lot of sense to me, but to him, it makes sense. And he's shameless about it. And I kind of think this is what we're getting to, of just like that self-respect, give yourself permission for it to just be what it is. Art for art's sake, kind of what Sal was saying. Yeah. Did I get in the right
I mean,
zone there?
yeah. And to your point, Sal, I mean, if the critic tries to get involved with the process of art, then the process of healing gets stymied.
Yeah.
And there's it's not useful. It's not helpful anyway.
Right.
The critic needs to take a seat in the corner while we are in the process of our art.
Yeah.
Later, when our art is completed and we decide when that critic can come in, we can invite the critic in to have a seat next to us and say, what do you think? Do you want to take, we can decide when you can take part in this with me and have a view at what we've done. But while we're in the process of working and drawing or making music, let it go to shit.
Mm,
Use
yeah.
it.
Yes.
Let your, you know, use your pain, use your grief, use your emotions. Let your illness speak. Let your PTSD speak. And the critic needs to sit in the corner.
Take a seat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even before you start working, you can say, look, I have work to do. Go, please sit.
Yes.
I'll call you when I'm ready.
Love it. I think that with the question that we just had from Tank, which we were just talking about, that kind of answered this question on the screen. What is your advice to someone who doesn't think that they're creative? I think what you just said, Catherine, sums it up. Let your illness speak, and the critic, take a seat. And actually that rhymes, so we need to write that down. Hold on. Let's move to the next question for our panel, which is, does art spark ideas or require nerves of steel to bring forth a truly exceptional piece of art?
Yes.
Okay, say more, Elizabeth.
Well, I'm not sure it's nerves of steel so much as I think someone just mentioned this too. I think it might have been Catherine, about how you have to write for writing's sake, for art's sake. Not. I know for me, my first drafts, in particular, first 10 drafts, are because of the words I want to get out, the message I want to get out, the images I want to get out, and they're for me. They're not for an audience. And then when I think it's ready, when I like what I've written, let's say, then I need the nerves of steel in order to put it together into something that an audience can appreciate. And that's when I need to stop and think, well, how can I best put forth my message? How will people understand it? Am I being too vague? Am I being too offensive? And then that's when it takes the nerves of steel. How will people interpret this? But initially, the art, I get a spark of idea and I write it for me, or I sketch it for me, and then I look to how best to produce it, how best to bring the audience in.
I love that. I like how you go first. You splash it onto the page and then you say, okay, now you can come back. Kind of like what you were saying about the critic in the corner. Just go sit and wait till I call you. Just wait.
Exactly.
Sal, what about you?
I mean, I agree, back to being process heavy. So much of my product work, which is oil painting, is letting I think the art reveal itself to me as I create it. And, you know, I have such a different medium than I think my other panelists, so maybe it's a little bit different. But allowing the layers to come through is sort of a subconscious process that I need to step away, and I need to let you know, my pain have its own expression. And sometimes that's harder said than done. I mean, last time I was talking to the panelists, I was mentioning that a graphic novel I'm working on, which is about my illness, I take the character of a matchstick and a dinosaur, and you know, I have these non-human characters through which I can explore my own experiences, and to some degree that makes it a lot easier to access traumatic parts of our past when it's you, but you're holding it at a distance and you can see it a little bit differently, and it allows you to rewrite narratives such that I am a speaking subject rather than the medical subject where my body has been weaponized. So I think so much about process and engaging with art as a witness to myself, but letting it show over time.
Yeah, I really agree that it is so much about the process and not really about ideas per se, but about permission. And so this actually goes back a little bit to the other question, is everyone creative, or can everyone be creative? And I absolutely believe that anyone with any background has within all of us the will to, and the desire perhaps, and the imagination really to create. We may not think that we do, and we may be dominated by a critic that is very strong and very silencing. And I think that feeds into illness. I think that that keeps us locked in illness and unable to find ways out. I have made a lot of headway into remission, even in several of my illnesses, from being able to express in any kind of way through, I do it through words and language, and mostly language for the stage, but I also write poems, I write stories, I write creative nonfiction, because anything that's coming out, I allow, I give it permission, and I have a very, very positive relationship with my inner critic. And I actually teach classes in how to do that. And I coach privately to help people with their inner critics, because it is and can be so toxic to have a silencing voice inside of you that says you're not creative or you can't. And we all can, because we all did as children. And then there were layers and layers of pain or dysfunction or disapproval that happen. And art is so freeing because it's for us first, it's for you first. And no matter who eventually sees it, whether it's published or performed or shown or purchased, you know, we live in a culture that really insists on a product and a monetary value. And that's really a negative, like toxic kind of cultural idea that it's only worth something if it's literally worth something. But what's worth the most to me is being able to express how I feel, or what I'm noticing, and how change is happening, or transformation, the possibilities for future transformation, what I would dream for. So I urge everyone to think of themselves as innately creative.
Yes. I had to write down that quote. How toxic a cultural idea that it's only worth something if it's worth something. What's really worth it is expressing yourself.
Which is so insane, because artists have we've never, almost never been paid anything. So to make a scale of what art is worth is insanity. What creativity is worth is bringing one's soul to oneself, and everyone can create. Every single human being is creative. We're put on the planet creating. I mean, to Emma's point, there's nothing more incredible than sitting at a piano as a little kid going bonk, 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 or drumming, or if you think back to when you're little, and if you are being challenged about, well, what could I do to create to help my illness? You can just do a sense memory exercise and reflect back to what you did when you were little, and if you can just take a moment and allow yourself to just pick something up and start to do it, and see how it feels to put that energy into your energy of your pain into that, and see, and then you're creating, and allow it to bloom into whatever you want. There's so much freedom in it, and all of a sudden you're creating, because I just hit a lemon drop on this bottle of water, and I'm a drummer now. It's incredible. Anything is creativity, man. You're free.
Now, I do kind of want to go back a little bit to that whole simplicity and the creativity. combination. And I actually wanted to call out, sorry, Elizabeth, to put you on the spot, but I want to call out Elizabeth, somebody who, here's the thing that you guys might not know, but I know Elizabeth very well. She's actually known me since I was a little girl, and she's seen me grow up. But the thing about Elizabeth that I know personally about her is that her mind goes a mile a minute, and I don't know how she juggles the 900 things that she does in a day. And when I tell you she is a super mom, super woman who just, I mean, like, sometimes I'll wake up to like 72 emails from her in the morning at 5 in the morning. And I'm like, how does your brain do all this? And she is just on it. But then she simultaneously has this like free mind that is just so creative. And I'll talk to her and she's like, oh, I'm just working on this new play idea. And in my mind, besides the fact that she's a superhero, she's working both sides of that brain all the time and flipping back and forth, which is kind of that, like, she sparks creativity, but then she's got those nerves of steel because she, How do you do both, Elizabeth? And I mean,
Hallie, what do I always tell you? It's smoke and mirrors. It's
you do
all smoke and mirrors. It's showtime. Well, one thing, and I do want to address a question that's in the chat too about losing. I feel
Sorry.
Yes, back to simplicity for certain. It is now. I'm fortunate in that I am a very fast writer, so I write everything down with all my ideas, things I don't, lists. I have lists of things I need to do. But please, people, know that I forget probably more than I remember, that some of my ideas work. A lot of my ideas don't.
Right.
I guess probably, to be honest with you, Hallie, I guess silencing that inner critic probably is what keeps me going. I will come up with ideas that are just, I think they're brilliant one day and they're awful the next. But the nice thing I've known in my 68 years is that one idea that I thought was brilliant, now I don't think is good. Well, I'll get a few more down and just keep going. Just keep going. And I think that's what, at 68 years old, that's kind of what I've learned. Today, I can't do anything. Today, literally my body will not get out of bed. But tomorrow is a better day. Or today, I'm going to listen to a book on tape because I can't get out of bed. I just think, I don't want anybody to think that I'm Superwoman because I'm far from it. But I will say that I think that if we can let that Superwoman thing go and just be who we are, and when we're on it, we're hot. And when we're not, well, we're not. And that's just the way it is. And people just have to take us for who we are when we are. So,
I need that on a mug, everyone. When I'm on it, I'm hot. When I'm not, I'm not.
That's right.
That would be perfect.
I mean, I love that. And the key is for us, at least for myself, when I feel that way, there's that the inner challenge is to accept that in myself, that's okay. Because I have that artist dis-ease or disease that I feel like I'm supposed to always be producing and productive and creating. So back to the simplicity thing, it's the allowing myself the permission to stop. And that's where I can heal my illness. Not only the illness of not allowing myself to ever stop producing, but also my illness of, in my case, CP, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and everything that has come from that, the physical illnesses. But it's so difficult for me, and I don't know if this is true for everyone else, but to say it's okay just to stop. Just stop.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to be something or somebody. It's really okay. Just take a break. Because I'm a workaholic.
Yeah. Right. I find myself that slippery slope as well. And I have to, sometimes I just have to stop. Because then you hit a point also where you're trying to push something out that isn't even your best self or an authentic self. It's a tired leftover energy that it's like, oh, why, right? So okay,
Mm.
does any, actually, before we move to our activity really quick, I think we have just a second. I want to read this very important question in the chat from Kara, and we have had people responding to it while we've been talking, which is amazing. I'm just going to read it out loud and read those responses because I want everyone to hear this. So Kara posed a question. She said, I used to be very creative as a child, a teen, a young adult. I wrote poetry, prose, plays, music. I did tiny pen and ink drawings. Then I got epilepsy, and I am now unable to work or be creative, no internal monologue or visual memory, in addition to general memory, focus, and manual dexterity issues due to damage from the epilepsy, but more so the unusual meds that I have had to be on to control my seizures. I've diagnosed with moderate cognitive impairment. Do any of you work with people with cognitive impairment who used to be prolific creators? Uh-oh, you guys are typing and messing up my screen. Okay. Who used to be prolific creators and have lost so much capacity and imagination? So her question at the end was, do any of you work with people with cognitive impairment who used to be prolific creators and have lost so much capacity and imagination? We have some responses. Hazel said, Kara, let's go back to simplicity. Elizabeth said, that's such an important question to explore. It truly puts our platitudes to the test. Kara said, yep, I can't handle platitudes on this. I can read my old pieces and am painfully aware of my limitations. Another Kara with a K said, I work in neurology and those meds cause serious cognitive fog, let alone the seizure impact. We love our occupational therapists who can help with coping and time management and cognition. Also, the grief of losing your old self, sending love. We have a lot of comments here. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize how many comments we have. Panelists.
Hallie,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to jump in here too, because one of the things that I think is really helpful is, and I wrote a play actually, that where the characters are having a conversation that quite frankly I wanted to have at the deathbed of someone I love very much. And that conversation never happened, never would happen, never did happen. And so my response was to write a play that included a conversation as I wanted it to happen. Okay. So for some of you who are talking about, losing the ability to use your imagination, perhaps writing a piece, whether it's an essay or drawing something, because Sal's so great at that expresses that frustration. I bet if you can share that frustration with others, you will find a whole lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who felt that way. And that's one of the things that have kept me going in my creativity, is the number of people who have said to me, wow, like I said, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. So my piece of advice might be to draw something. Sal, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Draw what you're feeling, write what you're feeling. And even if it feels like shit, yeah, that's what it feels like. And people will identify with that. Write music. Anyway, Sal, do you want to mention something there? Because I'm speaking about words.
Sure, and I think this is probably a good transition into our activity. So Emma, I'll let you take it away after me. But I mean, I think the challenge here is giving yourself permission not to compare to where you used to be and holding space for where are you now. And I think color, and there are so many ways of getting at how you're feeling in ways that I think relieve the pressure to produce something that is what you want to be producing. So, I mean, these questions that Emma has beautifully posed, what does it sound like, smell like, feel like? Is there a temperature? Sometimes for me, it's there are images that are entirely non-coherent shapes. And if you can try to put that on a page, that can always be a starting point. But Emma, do you want to maybe get us into this activity?
Sure, and I would just like to say that I do work as a coach, so you can reach out to me. So I would be happy to work with you. Um, so this activity is a kind of free write where you try to allow yourself and your illness, your trauma, your grief, or any hurt part that might want to speak or move or make something either with or without words, to have access to your impulses without the judgment, without the critic, and just, have pleasure in making a mess. Because without that mess, without the generation, without the generative impulse of whatever this big mess is, then you don't have anything to create with. So you have to generate the material with which you're going to create, because I don't think creating just comes from standing still with nothing, like, oh, now I'm going to create. No, like the messy part is that creativity. So I'm going to ask you all to make a big mess, whether it's with words, with dance, with movement, with shape, with color, with drawing, with whatever you can do. So give your pain or your body parts or your feelings a few moments to express themselves. And if you would prefer to make something instead of writing, and you don't have those materials, then maybe you could describe it in words without lifting your pen or taking your fingers off the keyboard, or however you get ideas out of your head. I'm not asking you to mull. I'm asking you to get the junk that's coming up, whatever impulse, that is, whether it's physical or language oriented, out onto a page or into the air, into space. And so to get you going with the activity, I'm asking you to give voice to whatever impulse arises. If there's a story, pay attention to the sensory details, right? We have 5 senses: look, right? What things look like, what you see in the story, what they sound like, what you hear, what things smell like, right? What the odors are, what they feel like, textures of things, and what they taste like. And if you can access 1 or 2 of those to bring the story to life, that would be great. If there's a temperature, heat or cold, and if this is really just a part of you, a body part, or an illness itself that is speaking, or a pain, or a grief, or a trauma, let it speak however it wants to speak, with its own rhythms and its own word choices, and see, as a kind of investigation, if there's anything extreme about it, and really trust yourself just in this moment. We're just going to take, how much time? We have like 5 minutes.
We're going to take 3 to 5 minutes. I think let's do 5 minutes.
Okay, so
And I'll be
5
timer.
minutes. You will be so surprised how long 5 minutes is. Keep going. Push yourself not to stop, just for these 5 minutes. Trust yourself, because there is so much in you that is nowhere in anyone else. You have something that is very precious, and let your illness or trauma or grief or any hurt part, just let that out for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, so that it's not forever. It's just a short period of time. So find out what it wants, or what you want, and how it might get what it wants.
All right, everybody. This is that 5-minute timer, my beautiful voice. Maybe I should get it as a recording for an alarm clock. There's probably an app for that somewhere. It is 10:30. I understand that people need to drop off. Our event ends right now, but if it is not too late, panelists, I don't know if you did this exercise. We would love to hear what you did. And if there's any questions, please pop them in the chat at this time, everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing griefdialogues.com podcast in our chat. That is for the Grief Dialogues podcast. But also, I would really like to invite you, as somebody who runs Grief Dialogues, on our website. If you just go to our standard website and go to the contact page, there is a form there where you can reach out to us. And if any of you are going through, quite frankly, anything, and you would like to maybe find some resources for whatever scenario you are in or situation you're dealing with, or you just like to chat with us, we'd love to talk to you. But Elizabeth and I and these panelists know so many people that we could connect you with if you do have questions about your illness, about anything medical. We are not doctors, but we certainly can point you or connect you in the right direction, also in the death space, grief space. And we are happy to connect you with our panelists as well. Emma, you're muted, my dear. Emma is muted.
Okay, I figured it out. It's just my screen looks different with this stuff on it.
I know.
So if you want me to share my messy writing off the top of my head, I'm happy to do so,
Yes.
because maybe it will be what you all think you all wrote is terrible and you're judging, and I feel the same way, except my judge and I are on better terms. So I'm happy to just share. I just literally, it's right here.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, I'm writing, I'm dancing, I'm on fire, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm messy, I'm drawing a scribble that I'll turn into something, a love, a lemon drop, a sweet, a sucker, a sweet. I have feet, I have pain in my gut that wants to slide away. I have a life to live without pain, but the pain arises. I can't push it. I can't get rid of it. I can't, the way I push away my loved ones some days, I can't accept it as being in me for life. I think I will win. I think I will run faster. I will work harder. I will get ahead of it. And there I'll be at the finish line with my people holding me, all my people, all my dead, waiting to take me home. I'm a long-time refugee searching for the safe place. I'm a long-time mute, unable to say what I mean, a long time alone, a long time away, a long time in the skin prison, in the mask, in the dialect, using words I was taught to use. I'm speaking in a foreign tongue with a translator who lies, and I want to tell the truth.
I think everyone's muted, but wow, amazing.
Go, Emma. Yeah, great.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm hoping
Fantastic.
there's somebody in the chat named Gree, I think, and I'm hoping that they said that they wrote something. You guys are all commenting like crazy. Gree, if you do want to share your poem, either unmute yourself or throw it in the chat for us.
Sure, I can share it. It's short.
Hi.
Oh, good.
Blood is bumping behind my head. Restless sleep, can't find peace. Tinnitus awakens, no option but a pill to pop or to find hypnosis or talk to next, to come to my aid and calm my pain, or just be there with me.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing. That was awesome. And thank you so much, because I know that it takes a lot to share on a big Zoom call too. So we really appreciate that. Do we have anybody else who would like to share real quick?
Oh, you do, look.
Shirley.
I
Brenda?
just have,
Go ahead.
I just have a little bit of writing. You got me to think about something that goes on in my life a lot, and I just kind of dismissed it as like not important, but this has been a very good, this has been so good. But I was going to say two things about, if I can, for comments. One is sometimes I play music in the background while I create, and it relates and it kind of influences what I do. So, and you know, it can be expressing, it can be angry music, it can be happy, whatever. And then color is just, it doesn't have to be a pretty picture. It's just expressing. It could be, you know, covered in, it could look like muck with words underneath. It's just a way to express. It's just what I do sometimes with art.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you so much. Oh, I think you muted yourself. Maybe not, maybe. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. I am sensitive to time. There was somebody, Brenda Chenault.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Brenda.
I wrote a poem. It's very short.
Let's hear it.
Unsettled, on shaky ground, like on earthquake under me. Stomach flutters, mind drives me to procrastinate. What is this feeling of overwhelm? It is not me. It's not this new person, more endowed with peace financial freedom and private space, yes, there is sadness and remorse, second guessing, but yesterday is done. Let me draw from the well of strength, creativity, and excitement that once lived in the me I am.
Wow.
That was fun.
Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay, so how about this? If you, I'm gonna give ourselves a little bit of a plug because we are Grief Dialogues and our whole thing is to dialogue about grief. If you have some artwork, please, artwork, a poem from today, something that you would really like to share, would you please send it to me at Grief Dialogues? I will figure out how I would like to package it up and share it with the world on our social media, because the power of conversation is absolutely everything. I am going to wrap up today's event, not because I don't want to hear everything that you guys have shared, but because there's like 17 chats that are Elizabeth, thank you for calling in. Sal, thank you for calling in. Catherine, Emma, thank you, thank you. Panelists, are there any last parting words you would like to leave our group with?
I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone, especially to my panelists who spent a lot of time helping to prepare this today. Thank you so much. It's a huge thank you to Hallie, as always. And please, folks, if you have questions, as Hallie says, please send us emails you can find on our contact page. If you want to talk to Emma or any of the panelists directly, just contact Hallie or myself through Grief Dialogues. We'll be happy to get it to the proper speaker. Also, I think we'll be sending out an email. Is that right, Hallie, with everyone's contact information? Everyone of the panelists' contact information as well, so people can reach out directly.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And if I know I can stick around for a few minutes. I don't know about the other panelists, but if somebody would like to, I can unmute people now. And if you would like to, let me see if I can do this. You can raise your hands if you would like to speak. I can unmute you if I accidentally muted you before, and we can entertain a few more questions if you want. Anybody has a question out there? Oh, just.
And I want to know.
Emma's got to go, but okay.
I want everyone.
If I go, you're gonna lose the picture.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That's okay, Emma. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I'll put in here. Oh, and now we have all our lovely faces. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put, you know what I'm going to do? No, I'm not. Hallie, would you put your email in the chat for people to send questions to? I would put mine in, except everybody's going to get a message saying I'm out of town.
So our email is social@griefdialogues.com. And again, everyone, if you also go onto the website, like I said, to the contact page, and submit, fill out that form to write a message, it actually goes to me. I'm the secret person behind the screen. So don't worry, it doesn't go to a black hole. Like I get them all and I respond to them all. So there's that. I also gave you guys the email as well if you want it directly. But up to you. Either way, whatever's easiest for you to remember. Thank you so much for being part of this event today. Elizabeth said we're going to stay on for, let's just stay on for 2 more minutes. When is the next meeting? Shirley, we don't actually, this is not a reoccurring thing. This was a one-time event, my dear Shirley. However, Elizabeth and I have a podcast that a new episode goes out every Wednesday. And last week's guest was Sal. And this week's guest is Emma, who just popped off. So off the call. So if you would like to hear our voices every week, then by all means listen to the podcast. If you would like more events like this, let me know. We'll see what we can get going.
And actually, Emma's bravespace.online actually has some very similar activities that she does directly. So if you would like to do more of this, definitely check out Emma Goldman Sherman's it's bravespace.online, right, Hallie?
Right. www.bravespace.online. Oh, wow. Yeah, Emma does a variety of classes, but one of the classes that she does, which is just incredible, is called an ASK class. And it actually stands for something, which I can't remember the acronym, but she works with um, individuals and helps you really nail down your artist statement and who you are. And she goes through kind of these activities and exercises to help you think about it and get it on paper and get a bunch of, kind of like we were talking about today. Throw it on the page and then let's bring it in. So she's incredible. Let's see. I know that Sal is extremely intuitive and involved with other artists and people who are going through an illness or an experience, and helps them bring art to that as well. I don't know, Sal, if you're open to talking to people. I think you had mentioned you are.
Yes, always looking to build a creative community of folks all over. So I can put my email in the chat, or you can find my website from the resources in the slideshow. But thank you so much. And I would love to speak to anyone further about anything, really.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Shirley, did you have a question?
I
Uh-oh. We lost her.
Hello.
Oh, hi, there I am. So you know what's ironic? I'm very thankful for the group, but I've been writing a children's book class, and the topic of my book is
Hi, Guy.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
So in the story,
Yeah, I obviously
it's
I
a little
can't do
girl.
everything at the same time, so I just muted
It's
what
a
I was
little
doing.
girl
So that's
that
okay, because you guys have a busy day, I'm sure. So let me just get back to the page because I had a podcast on. Just give me a second, please.
So it's a little girl that doesn't
This
like
is a
her.
great time because I cannot get into my account.
Kind of
It
ironic.
says sign into an
because I'm
existing
girl.
account, which I
If I can mute her.
did.
So anyways, thank you so much. And I will be checking you guys out. I will be checking you guys out.
Sure, please send us a message, send me a message, go to our website, all roads lead to me. And please share with me your work. I'd love to dive deeper about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Hey, Lindsay, who is in, I'm not going to try to Minnesota. Lindsay, I really like your glasses. I just want you to know that you kept popping up during our events. You know how it rotates the screens for me, and I just kept seeing your glasses, and I was like, these are so cute.
Thank you. I believe strongly in the power of strong accessories, and it's where my creativity also comes out. See Eyewear, SEE Eyewear. They're awesome.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Okay, well, I think we will sign off.
Shannon has a question.
Hi, Shannon.
Yeah, any of you could answer this, but I had a question for Sal. I really liked your idea of creating your own pain scale. I've been thinking about that a lot for myself lately, that I wish I had like a list of feeling words almost. You know how they have all of those feelings lists for emotional stuff online, and I'm like, what if we had one for physical feelings? I just wondered if you had any ideas for me to get brainstorming about that.
Definitely. Hallie, can I share my screen real quick? Okay, so this is just an example of one of my pain scales filled out. And as you can see, I have a mind side and a body side, and I've kind of thought a lot about different categories that my lived experiences of physical and mental pain fall into. So I would say if there are certain kind of buckets that your experiences can fit in, like your energy or how bothersome it is, or the temperature or the tightness of your physical or mental condition. Those are some places I've started. But I'm happy to talk about pain scales anytime if you want to connect with me further.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
A little bit helpful. Sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you to all of you. This whole thing was amazing.
I'm really happy to hear that, because our panelists work really hard at what they do, and their stories inspire me every day. So just to be able to share this with you guys is really important to us. All right. Well, it's Wednesday. Everyone have a great day today. Thanks so much for attending. Elizabeth, you are muted, and you are also the host, so you have to end it. Otherwise,
Okay. I have to end. Okay, but just a quick thank you, especially to Catherine and Sal and Hallie, of course, and everyone on here. And check out all of the resources. And we will have an email going out with those resources in it very shortly. And thank you. And it's almost 7 o'clock here in London, so it's cocktail time. So I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.